Oh, cool. Okay, thanks for sharing. Okay, guys, we're going to start now. People will probably come in as we go, but just want to say good morning and thank you all for being here. This is our first workshop of this academic year for DSC UBC. So I just wanted to quickly talk about like what we are, who we are as a group, as a UBC club, and like introduce you guys if you're not familiar with what we do and the kind of things we do during the year. So just briefly, DSC UBC is just a student-led club sponsored by Google developers. The core mission is about bringing students together to use Google solutions and like help solve community problems. We host challenges, workshops, events that help you level up your technical and non-technical stack and encourage people to work with others and get to know others in the UBC developer space. Additionally, we offer opportunities to get to know professionals in the field and network and make those connections that could, lead to things in the future. Stuff that for a quick overview of what we're planning to do during the year, our first half of the year focuses more on workshops and building foundational skills, and towards term 2 at the second half of the academic year, we focus more on projects and there are competitions that you will find out more about. So these are all a lot of great reasons to join DSC UBC. Another great reason is it's free, one of the free clubs in UBC. You can sign up on right now on the slide. There's a QR code that you can sign up at, and just check that out. You can follow our socials, sign up as a general member, join our Discord and start talking to others. And if you have any questions, ideas for events, anything like that, you can always reach out to all of our core team. You can see them here on Zoom with the nice background that I have. So you can let them know if you have any questions or any suggestions. So I'm not going to take up too much time. So without further ado, I will pass it on to the tech team, which will be leading today's session on Git and using Git version control software. So pass it over to Alex, Kieran, and Justin.
I'll introduce myself first. So hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Kieran. I'm a fourth-year student studying computer science, psychology, and philosophy at UBC in the cognitive systems program. I've worked as a software developer during my co-op terms. For the first 2, I worked at a company called LedgerDocs. It's a small Canadian business that develops document management software for bookkeepers and accountants. So you can think Google Drive for bookkeepers and accountants. I finished my co-op working at UBC as a web developer. And I guess a fun fact about me is I started my programming journey here at UBC. Alex, would you want to go next?
Sure. My name's Alex. I'm a third-year computer science major at UBC. I also just finished a co-op, an 8-month co-op this year. I ended in September. I was working at Covalent, which is a crypto API service that essentially helps developers connect and use crypto data without needing the technical overhead to set up sort of like crypto nodes. A fun fact about me, I guess this isn't super fun, but I actually didn't make it into CS in my first year, but I did a lot of things outside of school to show that I was really interested in CS, and I eventually majored in CS in my 3rd year.
Nice, that's inspiring. Yeah, I'm the last speaker. I'm Justin. I'm a 3rd year computer science student. Technically, it's my 4th year. I did a year of co-op at RBC as a software engineer. Yeah, at work, I worked a lot with cloud development and logging and visualizations to show data. Definitely really interested in cloud development as well as DevOps. I learned a lot like how modern companies use DevOps in practice. But yeah, a fun fact about me, I play Ultimate Frisbee with the UBC team as well. So if any of you guys play Ultimate, want to throw sometime, definitely hit me up. But yeah, let's get it started. I'll pass it along to Kieran to start off the workshop.
Cool, yeah. So before we begin or get started, just some things to take note of. Please, yeah, during the workshop, try to keep your mic off just to prevent background noise from distracting the speakers. We are planning to leave some time at the end for your questions, but yeah, feel free to add them to the chat as we go, and Alex, Justin, or myself will answer them or try our best to do that. We also sent you an email yesterday listing out some of the software that you'll need in order to follow along during the workshop. I would heavily recommend downloading that and trying your best to follow along during the demos. One of the best ways to learn is by doing, and I guess it's the fastest way to reach those aha moments. And yeah, it's easy then to see how the ideas relate to the actual practice. So just some things to take note of. And I guess now, yeah, we can get started. So today we've split our workshop up into 3 sections. In the first section, we're going to cover the basics of Git and GitHub. So we'll try to understand Git at a high level as one solution to version control. We'll also try and define some terms or jargon specific to Git and GitHub. And then in the second section, Alex will give us a demo of some frequently used Git commands in different interfaces. So Git from the command line, Git from GitHub desktop, and then possibly from your IDE or your integrated development environment. For this workshop, we're going to be using VS Code. So we recommend you use that one as well. And then in the last section, Justin will give us a demo of deploying a portfolio site on GitHub using GitHub Pages. So a lot to get through, so let's just dive straight in to the basics. So we're going to be taking a look at, we're going to do an introduction to Git and GitHub. So I'll try and answer some questions like, what is Git, what is GitHub, why do they exist, and what problem do they solve? I'll also try to give you a high-level understanding of how Git attempts to solve version control. We'll touch on some important and fun ideas like branching and mode conflicts. We'll also define 2 very common GitHub features that you may have come across already or heard about in passing. And then lastly, we have a link to a really helpful Git cheat sheet with a bunch of different Git commands that you can use as a reference resource whenever you're working on a project that needs version control. Okay, so before we can take a look at Git and GitHub, we first need to understand this idea of version control. So what is version control? It's any system that allows you to understand the history of a file and how it has progressed. So if you see the image on the right, we can see a file with, we can see a bunch of files all with a similar name, and it looks like there are different versions of the same file. We have version 1, 2, 3, updated version 2, we have final version, final modified version, and then the modified version that you want to print. My Explorer has sometimes looked like this, and this is an example of version control. But as you can imagine, when you're working on a software project and you have thousands of files, this is not a good solution. So what can we do about it? And this is where Git enters our world. So Git is a powerful version control tool that's going to allow us to help us solve version control in a few different ways. First, it's going to allow us to keep track of our changes that we make to our code. Second, it's going to allow us to collaborate with others, other developers. Third, it's going to make it easy and efficient for us to work on new features. And we'll take a look at the idea of branching. And fourth, it's going to allow us to revert to earlier versions of our code if we've realized we've made a mistake. So we can change between versions. And Git is just one solution to version control. There are others like Subversion, CVS, and Mercurial. but Git is definitely one of the most popular ones. And that's why we're going to focus on it today. Okay, so I said Git allows us to track our changes, and it does that by giving us the ability to save snapshots of our code at a given point in time. So here's an example. In this picture, we create a new file, we add some code, and then we save a snapshot of our code with a descriptive message like create a new file. Then we add a new line to our file, save another snapshot of our code with a descriptive message like added a new line. And eventually we end up with this chain of snapshots of our code, which we can use to control our versions. So in this example, we're only looking at a single file, but Git will manage and save snapshots of our entire project. So all like thousands of our files. And then in the demo later, we're going to see how we can take a snapshot of our code using commits. So that's what Alex will show us how to do later. So Git also allows us to collaborate with others. And before I talk about that, you might have come across this term repository during a course or while working on a project, and we're going to be using it a lot during this workshop. So a repository, or a repo for short, is just a folder where we store all the files related to a given project. And you can either store them on your computer, and we call that a local repository, or you can either store it online, and we call that a remote repository. Yeah, so Git allows us to easily collaborate with others, other developers, by synchronizing our code between different people working on the same project. So in the example down here in this picture, we can see that there are two people working on the same project, and they've both made some change to their local repository or a file stored on their computer.
But sorry, Kieran, I think you're on the last slide still. It like glitched out for a sec.
Oh, am I on collaborate with others?
Yeah, at least for me.
Okay, yeah, I want to talk about this picture quickly. Yeah. So yeah, in this picture, we can see that you have two people working on the same project, and they both made some change to their local repos that they want the other person to see and use. So what Git allows them to do is push their local changes from their computer to a remote repository stored online. And that's the third icon in the image right in the middle of the two computers. But Git also allows them to pull code changes from the remote repository to their local repositories. And this is the high-level setup that allows us to collaborate with Git. But obviously, in industry, there's going to be a lot more than just two computers and more than one file that's going to be sent to and from the remote repo and to your local repositories. Yeah, so, okay, now we're gonna look at branching. And I was looking at the Git documentation yesterday, and they refer to branching as the killer feature. So branching answers the question, how do we prevent breaking our project when working on new features? So let's say you've been working on a project for some time and you want to add an additional feature. And at the moment, we just say changes to this feature, like the image shown on the left, okay? But the problem with the image on the left is that if we have a bug in our original code, then when we want to revert that change, we're also going to be changing the history of our new feature. And that's where branching saves the day. So branching will allow us to move in a new direction when creating a new branch. And we only combine the new feature with the main part of our code, or the master branch, when we're finished working on the new feature. So our new workflow is going to look more like the graphic on the right instead. And later in the demo, we'll see Alex create a new branch and check out a new branch. So yeah, just to summarize, Git will allow us to make changes.
Hello? Oh. Karen.
Yeah, Karen, if you can hear us, your mic cut out, I think.
Want me to just go on with the demo?
Oh yeah, just give him a quick minute. Otherwise, yeah, you can just take over for him.
Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to quickly take over and start showing you guys how to work with some Git commands, but more so we're going to do it in the context of creating a web app. So, sorry, just let me
Maybe cover a few of his, I think he's a few more slides, one with the cheat sheet, which might be useful for everyone.
Okay. Send me the slide. 1 sec.
Sorry guys, we're having a little bit of technical difficulty. Don't know where Kieran went.
Hey, Justin, do you have the slides up?
Yeah, I do. I can share.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is where Kieran left off, just talking about branching, which is a way of how we can like introduce new features into our code. For example, especially when we have like multiple people collaborating on a project, we would maintain a central master branch. Actually, I think the new convention is call it the main branch in GitHub. But yeah, as you continue improving your project, you can have people creating new branches off the master branch where they can work on a feature and then make a pull request to bring it back into the code. And then this is the situation where it kind of possibly happens, which is merge conflicts. So say you're working on a branch, you make some changes to the code, as well as someone else is making some changes to the code on a different branch. And before you finish, they make a pull request back to the master branch. This would mean that within the master branch, there's some changes that aren't inside of the code that you're working on. So when you I guess finish some functionality and are looking to bring it back into the master branch, into the main copy of the project where everything is working, you'll be hit with like a merge conflict. This is definitely in order to like the best way to like make sure you're not running into these merge conflicts is before you make any pushes to a repository is to first fetch and pull changes that have been made, and then resolving these changes within your different interfaces, such as a terminal or an IDE, where you can see, for example, in the photo, there you can see like conflicting changes in the code. And then based on that, you can make changes to the working code you're working on, and then finally be able to push back into master or main. Yeah, I'll just go quickly through a few more slides Kieran had. So we talked about local repositories as well as remote repositories. So GitHub is one of the most popular ways to host your remote repositories online. You can think of GitHub as like a cloud provider in terms of hosting your code so that people can collaborate with it together online. There are quite a few other alternatives to GitHub, but again, GitHub is definitely one of the most popular. There's some like Bitbucket, SourceForge. And definitely one of the main reasons why GitHub is so popular is to do with like open source contributions. The idea behind an open source project is that the code is public. It's anyone can come see it, and as well as start contributing to those projects. Oh, hey, Karen, welcome back.
Yeah, I just lost my internet there for a sec. So
no worries. Do you want to just? I'll let you take over. I'll continue sharing for you.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, we went over merge conflict, and then now we're on to other GitHub features. Okay, yeah. So just to get some of the more GitHub jargon out of the way, forking a repository just means that you create a copy of a repository that makes you the owner of that. And you'll have a chance to fork a repo during this demo. And then once you've forked a repository and made some changes to your version, you might want to request that those changes be added to the main version of the repository. So for example, if you wanted to add a new feature to Facebook, you could fork the repository. Unfortunately, Facebook's repository is private, but just as an example, you could fork the repository, make some changes, and then submit a pull request. And this pull request will then be evaluated and reviewed, possibly accepted by the people who run the Facebook repository. And this process of people making a few edits and then requesting that they be merged into a main repository is the whole idea behind open source software. So it's software that is created by the contributions of developers all around the world. So yeah, those are two GitHub features that you're going to come across while you work with Git and GitHub. And lastly, we have your Git cheat sheet of a bunch of Git commands that are extremely useful and that you'll probably use while developing software. So in the demo today, we'll see Alex use git init, git clone, git status. So all of these might not make sense right now, but once you see it in action, I think things will start to click. So I'm gonna hand it over to Alex now to give us a demo of these Git commands.
Awesome, thank you. So I'm just going to start sharing my screen. Okay, so what we're going to demo today is just some Git commands under the context of creating a React app. React is one of the most popular JavaScript frameworks for building front-end web apps. So if you're interested in front-end or web development, I definitely recommend learning this because most modern tech companies will use frameworks like React or Vue or Angular in their tech stack over vanilla CSS, HTML, and JavaScript. So for today's workshop, we're going to borrow someone else's repository. I'm just going to paste this in chat. So this is someone else's repo on GitHub, but they've already created a very nice template for a personal website. And we're just going to borrow this, or as Karen said earlier, we're going to fork the repository. I'm just going to start this, and we'll put this under UBC DSCs. So now you can see you would be able to fork this to your own repository. So instead of UBC DSC, for you, it might be just your username, but the steps are all the same. And right now we have this developer's sort of template, and it's called React Portfolio. What we're going to do next is we're going to clone this onto our local machine, onto our local computer, so we can actually work with it. What you're going to do is here in the green button where it says code, you're going to copy this. And this is basically the endpoint where you want to copy all the files from. So copy the link, and if you're on Mac, you could open up terminal. If you're on Windows, you can type in command prompt or terminal. They're the same thing. And what this does is open up a sort of an IDE where you can start typing in commands. And this is one of the easier ways to basically clone this repository. So I'm just gonna pause for a quick second so everyone's maybe like caught up. So yeah, go to the command line. Again, you can get there by typing in terminal or command in your search prompt. and then we're going to do cd desktop, which cd basically means change directory, and what we're doing is we're changing it into our desktop directory so we can just put this new repository there. You can honestly put it anywhere you want, but I usually put new projects on the desktop just so I can see where they are. The next command we're going to type is git clone. Don't hit enter yet, but git clone, what it does is it tells Git, hey, I want to put a new project onto my local machine, and this project originates from like an already existing repo on GitHub or GitKraken or any other GitHub-like service. And I think in most cases you'll use git clone more than you use git init, git fetch, because in many cases as a new dev you'll likely be working with projects where repos have already been created, and all you need to do is not create a new project, but rather take that project and create local files for it on your computer. So we're going to type in git clone and then Control V, or however you paste on Mac. And you'll have this URL, this endpoint that points to the file, to the repo that you created on GitHub. And you're going to hit enter. And really quickly, it'll clone in all the files. And as you can see here on my desktop, here are all the files that were needed. So what we're going to do next, because this is a React project, there are a few steps just for React that you need to do before you can run this project. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to type cd react portfolio. Sorry, let me just take a look at chat. Same command for Mac. Yes, I'm pretty sure it's the same command for Mac. I don't know how I can prove it right now. I'm just on Windows, so sorry about that. Just leave a comment if it's not, and if you do know the command for Mac, do please share with everyone. Nice, awesome. Okay, so now we're in the React portfolio directory, and we're just going to type in npm install. So I'm just gonna let it run for a bit because it does take a while. npm install is, well, npm is short for Node Package Manager. Like the name suggests, it helps manage like modules, dependencies, or other libraries that this project uses. And we're installing them using the specifications in the package.json file. So if I can open this, here you have node modules, and this is what we're installing. But in package.json, let me see if I can open this real quick. So I'm using Visual Studio, Microsoft Visual Studio for this bit, but you don't really need it. We're actually going to be using a different IDE. It's called Visual Studio Code. It's got a blue logo, so, but they do the same thing. Over here, I think, yeah. So in dependencies, when you type in npm install, it goes into this dependency list, and it says, okay, I'm going to install React, I'm going to install React DOM, and I'm going to install React scripts for this project. But that's not too important. So it looks like we were able to install everything, and I'm just going to test it by running npm start. Npm start basically spins up a local server of this project. For example, because this is a website, it'll just spin up this React app really quickly. Yes, All right, and here you have Rahul's personal portfolio running on your local server. And this is just a template that he created for everyone else to use. So super awesome project. What we're going to do next is make a few changes and send it up to GitHub. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up an IDE. So for me, I use Visual Studio Code. All of them are just as good. You can use Microsoft Visual Studio, Visual Studio Code. Maybe you can use it in like IntelliJ. I don't know. But any one of them works. So here, what you're going to do is you're going to go into File, and you're going to open a folder. This folder is, because I put it in desktop, I can just quickly access it in desktop, and it's this one. And now you can, click in and look at the code that this template contains. So just a really small bit about React. It combines the JavaScript files and the HTML files together, so you don't have too many files open at the same time, but it also this makes development, in my opinion, a bit easier because all the components that you need are together in the same place. So you can quickly scan a file and see, okay, this is what I need. For example, so here you have the app, which is the website, and then you have all these, HTML tags, essentially HTML components that is used to create this app. Yes, I clicked yes. Yeah, so as you can see, like I'll put this side by side with the website. Header, I think, refers to this section where the wallpaper ends. About is the next div where it's got the gray background. Resume is somewhere. Resume would be this entire section that contains education, work, and skills. And you have, the testimonies over here, and then the footer. What we're going to do before we push this project up to GitHub is we're going to quickly, which file did I open from the folder again? Okay, yeah, let me just, if I want to store it in another folder, do I type that in the first step after CD? Yeah, you can do CD desktop, and then you can create a folder called like, I don't know, personal projects. So you would go CD desktop, CD personal project, and then you would do git clone. So that would create the repository of this project in the folder called personal projects. So what I did was I went to File, Open Folder, and I put this project on desktop. So I did CD desktop, and if I go under this PC, under desktop, this would be our project called React Portfolio. Yes. Yeah, so I'm just going to go into header. You can quickly go to the corresponding file of the HTML tag by clicking Control, right? Control, and then when you hover, it will highlight it. Control and click, open the file. And what I'm going to do is just switch the name. Oh, actually, the name would be in components, resume, right? It's not there. be in, oh, sorry, not in the components, but if you go into source, resume data, you should get a file that looks like this. And this is where you can type in, you know, some of your information and have it present that on the website. So for example, I want to find the name section. So let's go to app.js header and then resume data name. So let's go back to resume data. Oh, command F name. Okay. And over here, I'll just type in my name. Enter and which JS file did I open? Okay, so I have two files open. So we'll go back to the root repository. You have node modules, public, and source. If you go into source, you'll have essentially two files of interest. You have app.js, which looks like this, and you have resume data.js, which is a big JSON script that holds all of your information. Yeah, and the names are up here as well. So you have app and resume data. So right now, I just changed my name. I'm just gonna save it real quick. And over here, boom. This is my website now. Yeah, and up to this point, you know, everything works and I'm happy with it. So I'm just going to send this up. Sorry, I had to ignore that, Justin. Yeah, we're just gonna send this up to GitHub. And this is what we're going to do. So what I like to do is I like to open up terminal from the IDE. It doesn't really matter whether you do this from terminal or from the integrated terminal. So if I do it in terminal and I say terminal, new terminal, it automatically opens up essentially the command line that points to this instance. So I can just type in, you know, git status, right? And it tells me, okay, I've modified these two files, but I haven't committed them. So I'm going to add these. So to essentially my commits, I do git, I don't know, can everyone see this? Git add dot, right? And I'll hit git status again. And it tells me, okay, these are the changes to the files that I want to commit, right? And then in order to commit, you have to type in git commit. And you can't just type in git commit, you always have to type in a message with that commit. So I would say you would type in -m for message, and then in string quotes, typing a message. So what does it mean to commit a file? Essentially, yes, thank you, Arya. Yeah, a commit is like a bunch of blocks of changes to the various files. So it'll make a bit more sense when I show you on GitHub. So I type in git commit /m and you could type in a message. So I'll say something like changed, made it my website. All right, and it'll give you a line like this. It tells you, you know, you change two files. It'll give you a really big number here, but I think that's probably from the node modules. And then you deleted 29 lines somewhere. Hit git status again, and it's clean. So when it says it's clean, it means you've now made no changes on your current repo. Changes, however, are on that git commit instance. So next thing we're gonna do is we're just going to send it up to GitHub. It's a really simple command, and it just pushes your commit up to GitHub, and it's just git push. Yeah, thank you, Justin. Thank you, Arya. Sweet. So now we're going to open GitHub. And for you, your projects will be under repository, and the first one will be, React portfolio. But for me, I actually put the repository under UBC DSC's organization. So there it is. This is what we did. And you can see 1 minute ago, I made this commit. And I said, made it my website. And this is all I changed. I switched someone else's name into my name and basically made it my own. Nice. So now we're going to do a little bit of branching. We're going to do it something a little bit different. I want to point out that up to this point, everything works. I'm going to make a small change somewhere here. I'm going to say, I go to UBC, right? And we're actually some university. So I'm going to create a new branch, and the command is git checkout. Checkout means take me to whatever I'm opening. -b means refers to a branch, and we're going to create a branch name. Also put this in string quotations. Yes, I'll speed it up a little bit. I'm just gonna name this code breaking changes. Okay, sorry, no spaces allowed. Call it code break. And you'll know that it worked because in your IDE, it'll have something in the bottom left corner that says code break. I'm just going to check out back to the main branch, and I'm just going to, you don't have to do this step. This is just for demo purposes. I made a change in my main branch, but this was not pushed to my new branch. So now I'm back into code break. Yeah, that's the command. And what we're gonna do is quickly just change the background. So here is this website. So I go to pexo.com. It's pexo. I just type in pexo, and then I'm just gonna look for a really simple background photo. All right, like I'll pick this one. And what we want to do is we want to switch the background from this dune into something that's our own. And we're going to find this file here. So you guys don't have to follow along for this. I just want to find out where the actual file is. Source components. Second, CSS images. Oh, okay. So we're going to open the public folder, go into CSS, and then go to images. And you can see header background is the same Dune picture that we were looking at. We're going to remember the name. It's header-background.jpg. We're going to delete that. Yep. And then we're going to take this photo that we just downloaded, and we're going to throw it into images. So remember, it's in the CSS-images. Let me just type it in chat for everyone. It's in public. And then we have this photo. We're going to rename it. Was it background header? Was it header background? I think it's background header. Let me check. Okay. It might be named header background. Yeah, so just rename the file header-background.jpg, and now this website looks a bit more like yours. Yes, you would be pushing it up to your own repo. Yeah. Okay, so we basically added a new feature, and now we're going to commit it again. But do realize that we're on a different branch, so we're still on Codebreak, but the steps are essentially the same. You're going to do. You don't have to do Git status, but you can take a look at, okay, these are the files that I've changed. You can do Git status, git add dot, and Git status again. And this tells you, okay, these are the files that you have committed, where you have added to the commit. And then you're going to do git commit, new background, right? Tells you 2 files have been changed, which are these 2. The next step is a little bit different. So you don't type in git push master, but I would type in git push origin codebreak. So codebreak refers to the branch that you want to push these changes up to. I think if you just type in git push, it'll work as well because it knows you're on the codebreak branch. But this is also something that you can do. Thanks, Justin. And let's go back up to our GitHub portfolio, and you can see, okay, Codebreak had recent pushes, and we have 2 branches. We have master and we have Codebreak. And yeah, so now let's say, okay, we're happy with the changes that we made on this branch. We want to push it back to master, or we want to pull it into master and have everything back on one branch. So you would just go to React portfolio. You would say, you can either open branches and go to the branch and do compare and pull request, or usually they'll have a pop-up for you here. So you're going to click that. Added background. Be a little bit careful here because I was working with this last night and I accidentally tried to merge it to the original guy's repo. Merge it to your own repo. So this will be USDC master, and then we're pulling Codebreak into that. We're going to create this pull request, and GitHub will check that everything's okay to merge, and then we're just going to merge the pull request, confirm, and that's good. Now you can delete this new branch because all the data for all the files that you have changed are now back in master. So let's take a look at this through GitHub desktop. I know we didn't mention this for this presentation, but I want to show you that using command line is not the only way you can interact with Git and GitHub. So let's add an existing repository, and this is in this one, right? For me, again, I put it on desktop, and it's React portfolio. You want to click add and add existing because we already have this on our local computer. So desktop, React portfolio, select and add. So yeah, so what you see here is essentially, instead of typing git pull when you're back in the master branch, once you switch over to code break and master branch, it'll tell you like pull origin, and what that means is you have some files that have been changed on your local instance. But as you know, we were on a different branch and we pushed a new background up to the remote repository. And now when we say git pull, what we're going to do is take the latest instance of our master branch. And as you can see here, I don't know if you guys noticed this earlier, but for a split second, this was orange, and then now it's purple, which is our new background. And yeah, this is generally your typical workflow when interacting with Git. You're going to create a new branch, git checkout -b with your branch name. You're going to make some changes. You're going to make a commit, make a few commits. When you're done, you're going to git add dot git commit with the message. And then your final step, once you're done with all the changes and you want to merge it into the master branch, you're going to go on GitHub and you're just going to click merge. Right. It'll be something like when you have the pull request open. So I had this open earlier. You'll merge it from code break into master. And then once you're done that, you go back to the master branch on your local instance and you hit git pull. So again, I demoed that with the GitHub desktop IDE. Git pull point. Yep. Thank you. Yeah. That was just a pretty quick demo with someone else's template and how you can use Git to control all those version controls and not get mixed up.
Sweet. So yeah, next I'll be taking over from Alex. Yeah, so in this next section, we kind of wanted to cover something outside of Git and show how you can deploy static sites like the one Alex just showed us online, so anyone can visit. Quick apologies, we are running a bit over time, but definitely this next section is useful if you want to make if you're interested in making a personal portfolio and making it online so people can see. Oh, sorry, pressed the wrong button earlier. So yeah, this next section of the presentation is about GitHub Pages. We'll cover what it is, some popular use cases, and go over a demo of deploying a static portfolio site to GitHub Pages. The idea is to kind of give you a quick example of how you can use GitHub Pages to deploy your static code. So what is GitHub Pages? You can think of it as a super simple way to publish websites. GitHub Pages are public web pages hosted and easily published through GitHub itself. So this allows you to see your site live instead of using localhost. So instead of running a local server on your computer, and in this case, it would be really useful, especially if you're working with a team remotely and just need a really lightweight and quick way to test things and see the same code online together. So GitHub Pages is also free and allows you to deploy one general site for your GitHub account, as well as one for each project in a repository. So as you can see in the slides, you can deploy it to a URL like your username.github.io/project. So the URL itself is pretty clean, but one thing you can also do is connect a custom domain to your website later on. One thing to mention though, GitHub Pages is primarily designed for static sites only. It doesn't have the usual support for server-side scripting, but if you look around, there are some ways around this, and people have created some pretty cool web apps and published it with GitHub Pages. But definitely stay tuned for some of our upcoming workshops. I'm sure you'll see some examples of deploying web applications with Firebase or other hosting services where you can connect a backend to your front end. So what do people use GitHub Pages for? There really are quite endless different ways to use GitHub Pages, from publishing blogs to just experimenting with web design. These are some of like the popular use cases I've seen a lot of people use. I use GitHub pages myself to host my own portfolio, as you can see. I kind of let it act as just like an online resume, something in addition if people wanted to check out for more details. I really do recommend doing this if you're interested in React or front-end dev. When I created my site, I used this React template like what we just did. And I learned about how React worked from looking at the code, looking at the file structures, and then starting to develop like a few changes of my own from the template. But yeah, like some other use cases are like quick proof of concepts or prototypes. You can use GitHub pages to deploy your prototypes and maybe see how it would look on your mobile phones instead of just using like Chrome dev tools. And yeah, also just to like share to others in terms of like getting their opinions and things like that. And it's also a great way to like host a quick landing page free of charge, maybe just to put like an idea out there and start getting audiences or emails. But yeah, let's try it out. The process of deploying with GitHub pages is actually super quick. I created this like short guide for covering like a few simple steps for publishing a React app to GitHub pages. So if you'd like to follow along, this guide might be helpful to keep alongside. The guide actually uses something called a Create React App, which is like something React provided in terms of just bootstrapping a really quick project. But in this case, we're actually going to use the code we've been working with that Alex helped us get started. I'll just give you a quick second if you want to check out that link and download this page to like have handy. So yeah, we'll get into this demo. We'll be using the React portfolio template that Alex created for us. If you've been following along, please keep doing so and using the code in your own repositories. But for those people who haven't been following along or perhaps made a mistake somewhere, you can fork the most recent copy that Alex has been working on from our organization's repository. So you can visit that link on the site and then click fork and then bring it into your local repository just so you have like the most recent changes that Alex made. I'll just give a quick minute in case anyone needs to do that. Yeah, just to show like what that could look like. So you would visit that link, which would bring you to this page. You can see this repository Alex made. And then you can click fork and bring it into your own local repository. So yeah, like I said, you can have the most recent changes and start new just in case you've made any mistakes. But yeah, we'll get started with this demo. So what we did in this case, we found this open source React portfolio template online. This is kind of a good segue to just talk about open source a little bit. Open source means making your code public for the world to see, use, and contribute to. So for example, this is the repository we found online that had this template. GitHub has a lot of focus on open source, and you can find a lot of different projects you might be interested in. For example, if you really wanted to, this React portfolio has some active issues where you can take a look where people create an issue and said there's some issue with the template. And then what you can do is fork the repository, try and solve that issue by writing some new code, fixing some code, and making a pull request back to repository. And then there you go. You have your first open source contribution. But I do recommend looking for more projects that are probably more actively managed. For example, if you were interested in cloud development and Kubernetes, Kubernetes is definitely like a lot higher quality open source project because like companies in industry actively use it. So this is their GitHub repositories. As you can see, there's tons of issues with different levels of difficulties. And I definitely encourage you to tackle it if you're interested in some technologies you want to learn more. But yeah, let's get back to our demo. So yeah, I'll be doing exactly what you guys have done. So sorry, let's go back to here. So this is the code that Alex did. I'm going to clone this code again, so I have it locally. So I'm just gonna open my command line, go to where I store my repositories, which is desktop repos, and then git clone. Oh, my apologies. I have this installed already. I'm just gonna quickly delete this. I forgot to. This will take just a quick second. But yeah, I'm gonna clone it and then I'll show you guys how we can deploy this project onto GitHub Pages. Once this is done, I can go ahead. The reason why deleting React projects in particular takes a while is because within the node modules, there are a ton of files. Even though it might not be a lot of data, there's like thousands of files from each of these packages and dependencies that these different templates use. So just take a few more seconds. Sweet. So yeah, I'm going to clone this repository. And then I'll be using a text editor called Atom. I like to use Atom for front end developing, and I use like VS Code and IntelliJ for other projects. So what I can do is just type Atom. This is just for this demo cases. You probably won't have Atom installed, or if you do, you can follow along. But you can use any IDE that you have or any text editor. So this thing is called React. I'll just open it real quick. And then like Alex said, I forked this repository, but I'm going to have to run npm install again to get all the packages it uses. Oh, sorry, I am not in the right repository. Alex briefly covered how React works, but yeah, we won't go too far into like how React works. Definitely, it'll be something that we cover in the future if we do a front-end workshop. But one thing that is useful to know, so what React allows us to do is to build our project. So from the code we have in source with all the HTML and CSS, when we build a project, it optimizes or edits this code to make it more efficient. So when we deploy it, it takes less space and it runs quicker. So later on when we deploy, we'll be deploying the files within public to GitHub Pages. Yeah, I ran npm install. Now, just to quickly see the site, I can run npm start again, which starts a local server so we can see the site locally. So yeah, we can see the site. It's updated with all the changes Alex has made. So yeah, now we're going to get into how do we get this page deployed online to GitHub Pages. So I'm going to open up this text editor again. And right now I'm within the package.json file, which tells npm what dependencies we use and also contains some scripts in order to run npm scripts like start, build, things like that. So if you're following along with the document we provided, we're going to need a new dependency called GitHub Pages. So I'm just going to exit the developmental server, and then I'm going to be running npm install GitHub Pages, gh-pages --sav-dev. And what this does, npm is going to go out, find this repository, and then install this package into our local project. And like we said, package.json includes all the dependencies we use. So now you can see there's a change made in where it says we're using the GitHub Pages dependency now. Sweet. And then there's only a few more steps we have to do. One thing we have to do with GitHub Pages, if you see some of the documentation online, is we do need to add a new entry into package.json. I don't believe the order matters, but just to stay consistent, right after this private true field within this JSON file, we're going to make a new field called homepage. And then in this case, the URL we give it is going to be dependent for each person. So for me, it would be https ubc.github.io/react portfolio. However, this URL is going to look different for everyone. This entry here, UBC DSC, is your GitHub username. So if you're following along, this is where you put your own GitHub username, as well as if you follow along, the repository will be named React Portfolio. But if for some reason we renamed it something else, you would just put that new name here. So once we have this homepage, make sure you have this comma afterwards as well, or else the JSON will break. We're going to make a few scripts so that we can easily deploy this page with the GitHub Pages dependency. So within the script section, we're going to add a comma and then write a new field called pre-deploy. And pre-deploy's command is going to be npm run build. So the idea behind this is before we deploy, we're going to build the project, which in terms with React means to optimize the code, build the project so that the code is ready to be run live. And then after that, we're also going to create a deploy script. And then this is going to be named GitHub Pages -d build. This is included in the document we gave out. So if you need to see it, just refer to that. And in this case, there does not need to be an ending comma here. So yeah, that's actually all it for configurations. So make sure to save this package.json file once you're done this. And the next step, we can actually just deploy this website. So we're going to open up our command prompt again. And all we have to do is run this script we made. And we do that by typing npm run deploy. And what this does is going to run the pre-deploy script we did, which is npm run build. That's going to build a project. Once the build, it's done creating an optimized production build, as they call it, it's going to run the GitHub Pages deploy script, which using the GitHub Pages dependency is going to deploy it to GitHub Pages in your GitHub account. So sweet, it's published. So what we can do now is go to our GitHub portfolio. And then if you refresh, you're going to see that there's a new branch now called GitHub Pages. So what the dependency does is create this new branch. And if we take a quick look at this branch, you'll see it looks a lot different from the project. If we go into, for example, some of the JavaScript, or actually within the static folder, you can see all these like weird file names. And if you go into it, it's really unreadable code. This is what React does in terms of building a project. So the code is super minified, super efficient. So it runs better and it runs better when it's deployed. So yeah, now we've created this GitHub Pages. All we have to do is go within our repository to settings, scroll down to pages, and then you can see it automatically actually published it already. But just to make sure your source is correct, you want to be using the GitHub Pages branch and then the root folder. And this is also somewhere where you can attach a custom domain. So if you have some nicer looking domain like yourname.ca, this is where you go to connect the domain to this website. There are a few more steps, definitely look it up in terms of configuring your DNS, but that's pretty much it. Now we can just check out the site live. I'm actually going, for some reason, my Chrome has been acting up and has been caching older websites. So I'm just going to open up incognito, some reason that works. And yeah, we can see the site is now live. All the changes Alex has made. And this website is, anyone could visit this website. So I can throw this in quickly to chat. Yeah, and then your personal portfolio is now live. In order to make changes to your code, what you can do is go edit the code and then run npm run deploy again, which is going to build your code, make those, include those changes into the GitHub Pages branch, and then deploy a website again. So yeah, this is just a super lightweight way of deploying sites live. For example, in use cases like this, with a personal portfolio site, you can start working on your website and, you know, have something nice to show off online. One thing I would challenge all of you guys to try is to try to automate this process a little bit. One of the things you can do with GitHub using GitHub workflows and GitHub actions is to, instead of manually running npm run deploy, you can have it so when you push to the repository, GitHub automatically builds your project, pushes change to the branch, and then updates your website automatically. Processes like this are some of the things you'll see in industry. They definitely have more complicated, it's called DevOps, developer operations processes, where a lot of this stuff is automated. But I definitely challenge you guys to give that a try, do some research, and look how you could try to do that for your own personal portfolios. But yeah, that pretty much wraps up the workshop. Thanks to everyone for staying in and continuing through. I'm going to let Brian take over for our question and answering session, as well as a quick conclusion. So I'll just share the slides.
Awesome. So I don't know. Thank you guys for presenting. You guys was awesome. I was following along as well. So that was pretty neat to kind of do. I don't know if you guys can see me as a spotlight, but we will make do for now. So if anyone has any questions for the speakers or anything of that sort, please type it into chat or unmute your mic. I'll probably give you guys like several minutes just to do that. Maybe see if anyone has any questions. And if not, feel free to, send us a message, any one of us on Zoom, or maybe after the event, you can send us an email or something and we kind of can follow up on that. Okay, so right here, we have a little feedback form. So just kind of to let us know how we did. Would be great to have any of your inputs so we can improve for next time and what have you. So right now you can take a look at, if you want to be a general member, feel free to look at that first link, ubcdsc.com. You can sign up to be a general member and kind of be in tune with all of other events. Alternatively, you can go to our Instagram, which is at UBC or DSC UBC, and you will be able to follow, maybe DM us, ask us any questions, and kind of go to our link tree and whatnot. So you can see Arya, she posted all our links, so you can click and take a look at any of those. And as for in-person events, I read that in chat. That is something that I'm trying to plan out right now and talk to the team with. So again, just look at our socials, keep yourself updated, and we'll be kind of giving you guys more updates on that soon. So I see that there's another command or a question. So I think I'll let someone from the tech team answer that, since I'm not really quite sure. But
yeah, am I muted? No. Command following deploy and package JSON. What was it supposed to be again? I think I mistyped. Let me quickly, there's this quick document that has everything on it. This has the commands. The deploy command is actually the last one. There's one before it called pre-deploy. But yeah, I guess I can quickly share it. I think I have it open somewhere. Yeah. So within your package.json, after creating a new field homepage, after where it says private, true or false, there's also a comma included here just so the JSON doesn't break. But yeah, the two scripts you add into the script section is pre-deploy and deploy.
Awesome. So I see another comment. Lee's asking if we're going to be hosting any hackathons or competitions. So like we said at the start, at our first term, we're going to be focusing on workshops, socials, and whatnot. For term 2, we're going to be focusing on stuff like that. So we'll have like projects, Google competition will open up. So we'll probably hackathons, competitions, and whatnot. And for the React workshop, that's definitely something we'll be thinking about. If you have any suggestions, I'd say go to the feedback form, the QR code is right there, kind of give us any suggestions. So maybe some events you'd like to see. We will definitely take up on that. So please, yeah, go give us some feedback, follow our socials, DM us and all that. If there's no other questions, we can feel free to start filtering out. But if you want to stay hang out and just kind of ask any questions later on, feel free to do so as well. So I thank you guys for coming by. Thank you to Justin, Kieran, and Alex for presenting. And yeah, just stay tuned for any more events coming up, and I'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Definitely let us know in terms of what workshops you want. We have a few people on our tech team who are experienced with definitely a lot of cool technologies. But if it's a workshop we can't do, our club definitely is able to reach out to people in the industry to come in and do a workshop for you guys as well. So definitely fill out the feedback form and let us know what you guys want to see out of our club this year.
All right, thank you guys.